What's going on, folks? Welcome back to Michigan Great Outdoors. I'm your host, Jay Sostrowski, aka the Polack, and today I have for you the Hunt Arsenal Eastern Woods Outdoors Staggs in the Wild one stick, the solo stick, the stick that's everybody's talking about, the very lightweight one stick that's on the market now. And I have a very special episode for you guys this week. I actually have Greg Staggs on a Teams call. We kind of go over the intricacies of this stick, the design, the testing, his involvement, why he likes a 12-inch stick. All these things we're going to talk about in this next episode. And really, if you've been living under a rock for like the last 4 or 5 years and don't know who Greg Staggs is, I would be shocked. I mean, he really is the guy, the number one resource to go to and learn about one sticking, how to one stick, all the little tips and tricks. You're going to find that on his channel. You're not going to find that here. I'm not going to teach you how to one stick. The reason that I have this one stick, the solo stick, as well as an Eastern Woods Outdoors one stick and the mobile sniper one stick, is I want to see for myself, is this a viable option? So I would like to make some videos in the next month or so, and I'm going to kind of review these products, but I'm also going to share my experiences and what I think about them for me. It could be different for you, but I think it could be valuable watching these episodes, because if you guys know, if you follow my channel, I'm primarily a tree stand hunter. I do saddle hunt in rifle season. I do like doing that, but I do primarily tree stand hunt and actually hybrid hunt. But, you know, I've always wanted to test myself and push myself to learn new things. I think it's, as humans, we always need to test ourselves. We always need to try new things out. You know, you see on my channel, I have that Lean Ascent from Osprey Outdoors, that saddle climbing platform. You know, that Panther platform is new. I'd like to check that out. I had the Sladder on the channel last year. I've had climbers on the channel. So this is kind of that next evolution for me, looking at one sticking. You know, there's guys out there that are successful. They're killing big bucks off these one sticks. And now that you have this super lightweight one stick, I think it's more appealing now, because you take this, you add up your rope, your Mad Rock, the equipment that you need. Now with this super lightweight stick, you're going to have an option that's going to be very, very lightweight. So for me, this is a very exciting video. I'm going to call it, like, you know, gear talk or something like that. If you like videos like this, let me know in the comments down below. We'll do more of them if I can get other people to come on the show. I think it'd be really interesting to get some other maybe manufacturers on the show and just kind of talking about the designs behind some of these products we all love. So shout out to Greg Staggs for being on the channel, and let me know if you like this one. Thanks, guys. All right, Greg. Well, I'm glad that you took my call here, and I thought this would be kind of, you know, cool to get on and talk about the solo stick. So obviously you have a couple solo sticks next to you, really innovative design, pushing the limits of engineering. And I just kind of wanted to hear what your thoughts on it. Maybe kind of go over just the preliminary design. You don't have to go into super detail, but
yeah. No, I actually have 3 different iterations here. So as you know, and some of your viewers will probably know too, that you know, I had a really good chance to be involved in the beginning of the design of this, right? So I was fortunate enough to be invited by Hunt Arsenal and Eastern Woods Outdoors to kind of be the third collaborator on this. And, you know, obviously Scott with Hunt Arsenal, they bring all this engineering expertise and I mean, their platforms, people have become, you know, they're renowned for just state-of-the-art cutting-edge technology with the 7075 technology, being that 7075 machined aluminum versus 6061 or something like that. So they integrated that technology into this platform. So they bring all that. EWO, obviously, with the distribution expertise and the marketing prowess of, you know, being known for one sticking, and then my field research and a lot of feedback. We actually formed a team thread during this whole process. And what I'm holding here is the very, very first one that I started off with. And you'll notice it's kind of squared off versus what you're holding. And the next iteration has this, you know, that rounded, rounded edges here. You'll see mine is almost a perfect square here. That's the one I started off with, and we'll get into the changes and how they came about. But yeah, I hunted off this all through the 2024 season. Obviously, the public's just now getting their hands on it, so it has a lot of hunts, a lot of testing, a lot of feedback from myself, because, like I said, I hunted off this all year long, and we formed a team thread. We basically formed a group message, and you know, at one point, if you want to know how that kind of came about, that cutout design, because I've hunted off a 12-inch stick for years, right? I've recommended, I highly endorse, I recommend a 12-inch stick over any other length, and we can get into why that is here in a little bit. But I hunt off a 12-inch stick, And I never had a problem. You'll see on the boards, they're like, people that don't know how to climb while they're one sticking, and I'll just say it bluntly like that. They try to guess how to climb, and people will say, "Oh, I don't want to hit my shins on the platform coming up while I'm one sticking." Well, I've never hit my shins while one sticking on a platform, because if you watch my videos, I go around. I bring my feet, if I'm standing here on the bottom, I bring my feet around to the sides of the platform. I don't bring them in front like you're climbing a set of steps. I just bring them around and set my foot right there. It's super simple. But I mean, I've been hunting with this several weeks, and I kept banging the inside of my calves on this as I was trying to bring it around. And finally, I'm like paying attention one time, and I'm like, I'm hitting my shin, my inside of my calf right there. And as you look and hold yours up, you'll see there's now these big sweeping cutouts, that radius arch there. And I literally took a picture of this as I was hunting one day. And if your iPhone, I'm sure every phone does it, but on my phone, if you take a picture, then you can draw on a picture.
Yeah.
And I drew those curves. I'm like, guys, can we take this out? Can we put a radius in here? If we did that, we'll probably never ever. I'll never did. And so my second prototype, which is this one, you'll see, has those just like the one you're holding there. And so once I got that started hunting on that one, that problem went away. I never hit my shins or everything. And it gives a really good push-off point there where your hand is right there. If you want to walk yourself around a tree, because I like to hunt in basketball-sized trees, and for that size tree, I can push off right there where your shoulder is hitting, where your hand, your second hand, right there. I can push off that, and I can just lean out behind a tree. And in fact, I killed a doe last year doing that. It makes an awesome push point.
Well, one of the things that I like about that too is you're also taking more material out, so you're going to lessen the weight, but then your foot still has plenty, so you're not losing anything.
Right, 100%. 100%. So that's kind of some of the early development processes of how this thing started.
So you mentioned the 12 versus 15. If you could briefly touch on that, if I was a consumer, why would I want to choose a 12 over a 15, or maybe why would a 15-inch be helpful for certain consumers?
So my thought process is one sticking is all about minimizing weight and bulk, right? Cutting weight, minimizing bulk. If I've got a choice between a smaller and a larger object, then I want to make sure I have the smallest possible, provided it works equally as well, right? If we're cutting out weight and bulk, I want to minimize as much as possible. Again, provided it works equally as well. In my opinion, a 12 works even better than a 15, and certainly better than an 18. There are people still buying 18-inch sticks out there. We don't offer the solo stick in an 18-inch version. It's 2, because there is a very small percentage of the market that's buying 18s. But I prefer a 12 for a couple different reasons. One is you minimize the distance between your contact points. Everyone sees our videos where we're instructing and teaching and showing people how to one stick. We're typically doing that on a pretty easy tree. But in real world scenarios, when I'm out hunting day after day after day after day throughout the season, I'm rarely going up a perfectly straight tree. A lot of my trees are multi-limbed. They're twisted and gnarly. They're leaning. The more distance you have between contact points is the more chance for that tree trunk to twist. And now it's harder to get all 4 contact points. I've actually got a video on my channel called How Do You Set a One Sticking Stick? And it's to make sure you get all 4 contact points on the tree, right? Well, if you've got one contact point off because the tree twists or leans or whatever, this 12-inch distance makes it a lot easier to get those contact points on a tree.
Right.
More importantly for me, though, and this is my number one overriding reason, is I do climb a lot of multi-limb trees. And a couple of years ago, I was testing a stick for a manufacturer, and they had come out with a 15-inch stick, and the way the standoff worked and pivoted, it actually made the standoffs even longer. It was more like a 17 and a half. I was climbing a tree that day. I could not fit the stick between 2 limbs coming out of the tree. Could not do it. Now eventually I swung around with my rappel rope, my tether. I swung around. I climbed the back side of the tree, went around that troublesome spot that and then got back up and because I wanted to be on this side of the tree, because the bedding area was out there. I had a food source behind me. I wanted to be facing that way, and that's the night I actually killed the tumor buck. Some people are familiar with that buck. It was the last day of the season. It was a pretty cool kill. I mean, it was like January 17th, and it was cold, and I got done the last hour of the day. But that climb was, it added an extra 15 minutes to my climb that I shouldn't have had by having, or maybe it's 10 minutes. I don't know, but it was harder. I was sitting there thinking the whole time, like, man, if I had my own personal 12-inch stick, I could have jammed it in there between those two limbs and went right on up. And I do that frequently. So I'm a huge advocate. I tell people all the time, the height you get while wind sticking does not come from the length of your stick. The height you get from wind sticking comes from the overall moves you make, not from the height of your stick. So if you've got a 12-inch stick or a 15-inch stick, that difference obviously very obvious is 3 inches. But when we hold a stick and we put it up on a tree, that 3 inches can now be divided in half, because 1.5 inches of that total length difference is above your hand, 1.5 is below your hand. So really now you're talking about the height above your hand when you're putting a stick on the tree. The difference between a 12-inch and a 15-inch stick is now 1.5 inches, not 3, right? Because the other 1.5 is below your hand. So the difference between those two sticks is 1.5 inches when you're talking the height that you're gaining. And so if you make 3 moves to get to hunting height, 3 times 1.5, the overall distance you're gaining is 4.5 inches on the distance between 12 and 15. Now, playing the flip side to answer your question, the only time that I would see, I'm almost 6 foot. I'm a little shy of it, but I've got a very long inseam. I've got like a 33-inch inseam in pant size. I was standing beside Dano. A lot of people know Dano is a giant of a man. He's like 6'5" or something like that. And I was standing beside him at the Mobile Hunters Expo in Dalton, Georgia, and our belts were almost the same height, right? So I've got very long legs. So when people go, well, man, I'm 6'4", 6'5", I need a 15-inch stick. Dude, I've got really long legs too. And I have no problem climbing with a 12-inch stick. Just go around the sides.
Yeah, this is the 12-inch. And honestly, I would rather have the smaller package, save a little weight. I kind of felt the same thing. But I know I've been seeing some questions on the forum about guys asking 12 versus 15. So it's really just personal preference, really.
It is personal preference. I actually have a video. My next video I'm going to try to shoot next week is what length wind sticking stick should you get, 12, 15, or 18. So that's actually my next video on my channel coming out.
So looking at the complete package here, so we have the pack and play system. Do you recommend buying the whole system, or do you think that you should piecemeal it to yourself, or what do you think consumers, if they want to get the whole package, do you think that's the way to go, or just kind of, pick and choose?
So what you're holding is my favorite package, but the cool thing about the solo stick, you'll notice these little, you'll notice those little protrusions there with the ear wings on it. Those are made, if you happen to be a big fan of the Max 8ers, and there are a lot of people out there that are fans of the Max 8ers, right? And those are the ones that Sam, the Amstel guy, helped develop with Hunt Arsenal, that look like a plank, and they offer a ton of support. They're easy to find, easy to get if you're a fan of those, that's what those little protrusions and those ear wings are for. If you like any other kind of Amstel 8er, that's what those are for. I'm a huge fan of the Ultimator for a variety of reasons. I love the it's got a really rigid, stiff step in it that makes it doesn't collapse real easy in your boot. It also, you can adjust if you want to go from a 15-inch step to an 18-inch step in one hunt. I am not a fan of scrunched up little bitty steps. I like stepping on out, primarily probably because of my long legs, right? It just feels unnatural to take little bitty short steps. You can change and alter that without having to buy a new 8er with an Ultimator. You can take it from a 3-step 8er to a 2-step 8er. You can literally completely remove a step with an Ultimator. So I'm a huge fan. But the cool thing about the solo stick is, to your point about being personal preference, if you're a fan of the Max 8ers or Amstel 8ers, whatever, this stick is designed to accommodate it. I also like the pack and play. I like how it wraps up. You were holding up that what people are actually seeing is the pack and play, the 8ers inside that. So I'm a fan of that roll up pouch that John Richards developed, the pack and play. It holds everything so nice and neat and tidy. And then you unhook those G hooks and there's your 8er. It rolls out. It's a very clean offering.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed when I pulled this out of the box. Obviously, the machining Arsenal is known for world-class machining. The colors. It's just a pretty looking item, even with the carbon fiber tube. But then this whole Amsteel, containment system, I thought was really thought out well. And so that is a Kydex material, correct?
It is. And if you notice that very first offering I held up here, now I have since removed this cam plate, but you'll notice there are no Kydex hooks. There's no rope keepers on this one. And that was, again, another feedback I had from field testing. I'm like, you'll see the rope is around and around and around and around this stick versus my other ones here, is what you had. So my first one, when I would pack it up, I would have to go around, then finish off back to the cam plate. And that takes a little bit of time, and it's a lot harder, a lot more wraps to go around a little 1-inch tube than it is to go through the big, long, 12 inches in between. And so that was another thing. I'm like, guys, can we put a rope keeper system on this somehow? And that's what Scott came up with. There are I've seen some feedback on the forum. People are like, man, everything else on the stick is so expensive, right? I mean, I'm paying for a premium stick and it's 70-75 aluminum, and then it's got these Kydex rope holders. I'll just tell you, I mean, I understand the concern. I appreciate the comment. I get it, right? You're buying a premium stick and it's got Kydex rope holders. I bet I've got 100 hunts on this stick, winding it up and wrapping it up, and my Kydex rope holders are just, in fact, this is the stick that I've hunted probably 100 times off of, and my Kydex rope holders are fine. I mean, if you don't bear down and just like put your weight into them, yeah, could you break it? Of course you could. But if you can wrap it around gently, dude, I've got about 100 climbs or more on that particular stick right there, and they're just as good as they were the day that I got it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see it as an issue. I think it was a really good idea, and I don't like having to wrap it around. I have the Eastern Woods Outdoors Ultimate Whip one stick, and that's kind of like the one thing at the end of the hunt where I've thought like this is kind of silly to wrap it around. So I think that's a really cool feature.
Yeah.
Weight rating. So I've heard some guys, there's been him hawing around about the carbon fiber tube and what the weight rating is. So it's listed online for 300. Obviously that's usually 3 times the factor, which would be a 900. So how do you feel about the weight rating, and do you have is there any testing or anything you could share about that?
Yeah, so I'll handle 2 questions. One that you did not ask in addressing the weight rating. My original prototype, a lot of people saw me put out an early video kind of giving a premonition of what was to come with this, right? I did probably the first video on this. And at that time, this stick was about 2.2 pounds. The production version that you're holding in your hand now is 2.8. And there's been some people have kind of questioned like, oh my God, Greg said it was this one. Now the final version is, 6 ounces heavier, right? The reason for that is the new stick, and this is the actual almost pre-production version. So we beefed up that carbon tube. It's still a proprietary carbon tube, 100% carbon. It's not some kind of a polymer plastic called carbon. It is 100% carbon. We beefed that up, almost doubled the thickness of the wall of that carbon. And then the flanges you'll see on the right underneath where this top platform fits and the bottom platform, those flanges are a lot heavier and beefed up as well. And what that did was allowed us to basically put this in the hands of everybody, even Hunter Osterhout. People know him too. He lost 45 pounds and he's still hovering at 300 pounds, right? And he's jumped and swung and come in and crashed on this stick as well. On the production version, the final one that's beefed up a little bit heavier, but it's made to handle everything. And so, yes, it has a 300-pound rating, but I can tell you how we tested this was Dan put this on a log in a controlled environment in his shop at EWO, strapped it with the one stick rope, just like you put it on a tree, like you'd hunt with, but it was on a log sideways. And then what it is, he got a winch with a scale in there and attached to these two far corners of the platform. So AMA standards say that you put a board or something across right here on top of the platform and pull from either side. Well, that means you're pulling and having everything, the stick itself is helping support that. If you went across right, and I'll raise it to where the camera can see, if you went across right there, well, then you've got everything supporting it. Dan actually hooked out on the ends, way out here, 2 pull points into a Y, and started cranking on his winch and got to 1,350 pounds before this saw any deflection at all. And then when he let off, it came back to about 98% recovery. He actually has that stick hanging in the shop at EWO Outdoors. If anybody wants to go in and look at it, it's hanging on there. And to the naked eye, you can't tell the difference between a new one. So it reached 1,350 pounds. So, yeah, it's got a 300-pound weight rating. I'd be comfortable saying, if you're a big boy, buy it. It's going to hold up to you.
That's good to know. And the carbon tube especially, I mean, it's hard to, when you make these videos and stuff, it's hard to really like explain how it feels when you hold it. I mean, it just, like when you try to move it or manipulate, it just feels rock solid. And to me, that's very important. I've always been a bigger guy. I've actually lost like 52 pounds myself. So I'm hovering around like 237 right now. But even still, I mean, it makes me feel good because I love hunting and I love my family, and I want to come home. Like, I don't want to worry about my equipment. I don't want to worry about a tab breaking or a step ripping off, or like, I want to focus on killing deer. That's why I'm out there.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
So kind of looking at the platform, you look at it and it does have like a little bit of a taper on there. And what are the thoughts on that? And then will there ever be kind of a different platform versions, or is this the only stick that you guys are going to make?
No, if anyone knows Arsenal and Scott, the owner, the dude is like, his mind never shuts off, right? I mean, you look at his Razor line of platforms, right, with the Razor Mag and Razor Elite, and now the Sub 2, and there's we were actually talking at the show, the Mobile Hunters Expo show in Ohio, and he's like, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this. He goes, it's kind of hard for me to talk about all the products we've got here at the booth right now. And in my mind, I already know what I've got coming for next year, right? That's just how his mind thinks. So we are actually already talking about Gen 2 of this. Now, does it make this obsolete? Does it make it not a good stick? No, absolutely not. The thing that we're talking about doing is just making a bigger platform later on. Now, I will tell you this. That's not a guarantee that we're thinking about it, because there's a lot of dynamics that go into developing the CAD drawings. I know I was talking with Matt, the guy who did a lot of the CAD work for this thing, that is an employee of Hunt Arsenal, and he said, by making this 1 inch longer, it basically almost doubled the stress point on this right here. So when you're talking about making something 2 inches wider, 2 inches longer, just overall a magnum platform, so to speak, there's got to be a lot that goes into it from an engineering and design perspective. So we're thinking about it, but that doesn't mean a guarantee that there's a lot of testing that's got to happen, and it may not ever come to fruition. So they're thinking about it. As far as the comfort kind of a groove here, that was one of my big things as far as the angle is what I'm kind of talking about here. How it's not truly a real super angle. A lot of guys want, and I'm an advocate of a big angle platform. If I'm not going to lie now and say, oh, this is perfect, right? Because I have for years back, I mean, I've been a real advocate of an angled platform. I've always hunted off an angled UP. That's predominantly because I'm a leaner. I'm a big leaner when it comes to how I position myself in a tree. I hunted off this all last year, and I had to kind of train myself to not lean so hard, because I didn't want to have, my arch of my foot right here on this. So I got to where I didn't lean as much last year. So if you're not a leaner, this is a really good, it is more comfortable than standing on an edge, but it's something we talked about. The problem is with this machined aluminum, to get an angle like you'd want, you'd have to start off with a billet that thick to get the angle I want, all right? And you cannot weld 70-75. You can weld 60-61, but not 70-75. So you would have to machine it out. And again, you would be wasting 5 times the material that it costs to make this. It would make this stick so exorbitantly priced, it wouldn't be attainable by the average consumer. So we're playing with ideas there, but the big thing that we're looking at probably next year is just making a magnum version of it.
I like the way this is. When I saddle hunt, I like to have my platform almost level, maybe just pitched like a couple degrees down, because I like to be able to stand if necessary, or it just feels more comfortable for me. So I really like this design with just a more of a minimal edge there. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, it works. Like I said, even as the severe leaner that I am, it was easy to retrain myself to become more of a sitter, more of a stander, and it does, like I said, I killed my big buck last year. Everybody sees my canoe buck that floated out in the canoe. Yeah. I killed him by turning my back and putting the tether over my shoulder and just standing up straight. So you got a lot of room to stand there.
I think one of my last questions, so we can wrap this up. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I'm interested to learn about this channel here. So it feels smoother than the other edges. Not that these edges are sharp, but this one just feels like it's really refined. So is this designed for the rope? And what are your thoughts on putting your rope through there as you climb?
Yeah, that's how I climb. It's how my video shows how I teach people to climb. I like wedging my stick up underneath my rappel rope as I climb, and then it frees up my both hands. Once I wedge it there and kind of allow myself to go into the tree, my weight holds the stick. So that little V is specifically designed to hold your tether rope. And then I've got both hands free. I can take my rope in my right hand, throw it around my left, and cinch it up as I'm making my moves. Now there are a few people out there that they hang off to the side of the tree. And Dano is one of them. He does not use that little V. He doesn't wedge his stick up underneath the rope. If you hang off to the side and go off to the side of the tree, I think it's a little more unwieldy for me because you don't have the support. You don't have the 3 points of contact. But you can probably get another extra foot or so with each move by going around to the side because you're not limited to jamming it up underneath that rope.
Right.
I'm not so concerned with how high I can get and how big a move I can make every time. I'll take, going back to your point, the safety factor, the rigidity, the everything. Because when I put it underneath that rope, I mean, I'm locked in, and the platform is locked in.
And you're not fighting gravity at that point. Exactly. I mean, because you're on a pendulum, right? You're tied off, and you're not fighting. That's where I found trying to move to the side of the tree while one sticking, especially when I was like 287 pounds.
Yep.
That's a lot of freaking beef to have on the side of the tree, and gravity's pulling me back. So I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, some of the early practitioners or people that attempted one sticking were doing that. And I think my videos, one of the reasons why some of my one sticking videos caught on so well is I was teaching wedge it up underneath the rope right off from minute one. And I had several people reach out to me and go, dude, I used to try to swing out to the side of the tree, and that was heck. And now I put it under the rope, and it's easy as all pie. I'm like, yeah, it's so simple.
All right. Well, do you have any closing thoughts? Like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I do appreciate you getting on here and talking about me. I really do think this is it's kind of in a class of its own. I mean, it is a solo stick. Yeah. Why is it called the solo stick? Is it because it's solo in its own class, or do you know where the origins of the name is?
I'm sure you could probably read into it, and then the great thing about marketing is you can make it whatever you want it to be, right? I think they were looking for something because, everybody's saying one sticking, and I think Scott was trying to say, let's create something that means one sticking, but is different, right? And so the solo, it's one stick, and you can do everything with it. You can go 40 foot high, you can cut 4 foot off the ground with it. Same amount of material with one stick or a solo stick can get it done from 4 foot high to 40 foot high. So, yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Jace. Thanks for having me on. I think it's cool that we're able to do a little bit of a collab to get some insight into, the design process behind the scenes. Not too many people get to see, hey, how did this stick even make it to market? And so hopefully your viewers will appreciate that.
Yeah, and I thank you for coming on. And, I'm not I'm more of a gear reviewer. I'm going to do a review on this product, but I would always tell anybody, if you're learning how to one stick, Staggs in the Wild on YouTube. If you've been living under a rock for the last several years, then you might not know about Staggs, but he is the godfather of one sticking. So you do want to check his channel. I will link it down below. And if you have any questions, if I can't answer them, I'll reach out to Greg and we'll get you squared away. So thanks for talking with me, Greg, and I hope you have a great day.
Cool. Thanks, Jace.
So hopefully you guys stayed to the end of the video and thought it was helpful. I know it was helpful for me as I kind of navigate this whole one sticking journey I'm on. I really want to, do my best job to share with you guys my thoughts and experiences, being that I'm primarily a tree stand hunter or just a regular saddle hunter, to kind of see if it really works in my area of Michigan and how I hunt and what do I think about it. So I'm going to be doing a full review on this stick, as well as the Eastern Woods Outdoors one stick and the Mobile Sniper one stick that I have. I really want to go through all three of these sticks and really kind of give my opinions on them, and you can kind of take that and see if it's right for you or not. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to teach you guys how to one stick. Greg Staggs in the Wild YouTube is that resource that you want to go to. I will link it down below. Leave me a comment if you like this type of video, if you think it's helpful. Maybe I'll try to get some other manufacturers on here going forward to see if they want to do something like this. I really, I nerd out about this stuff, and I know a lot of you guys do too, and kind of learning about the history and the whys. Why are things, why is this edge here? Is this rope thing really for the rope? And just all these different things. Why is the stick the way it is? I really like to learn about that, and really it helps you. It helps you when you use it. And ultimately, are you just a gear nut, or if you're trying to use something like this to kill deer? I know that I want to kill deer, especially big bucks, and is this a product that's going to help you do that? I think it's a really rock solid product in my initial impressions, but I haven't had it that long. I need to play with it more, kind of put it through its tests. I need to get the rope out and actually do some rappelling, actually do some real moves instead of just playing with it in the backyard. So stay tuned for that. I do have the Latitude back straps, the new one, probably coming up next. I have an update from Osprey Outdoors Same with this vest. This is their new vest that I got. It's actually freaking pretty sweet. New camo pattern and everything, and kind of a different, unique way of, you know, not having a backpack, because they have some really cool features on it. So I'm going to be doing that. I got an update on the Bridge Buddy coming soon, and some other really cool videos. So it's going to be jam-packed for the next month or two. I'm trying to get to like 2 or 3 videos a week, so I might have to shorten them a little bit. But yeah, stay tuned. We got some cool stuff coming, and get out there, shoot your bow, and get ready for deer season. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.